What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a 2-round mock draft all in one video. So if you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to do YouTube. Below my face is my board. It is completely honest. It will continue showing you new players that I am reevaluating because, yes, I am continuing to reevaluate players. This is actually based on their overall grades. So if you have a player on here below my face, which I'm going to have plenty that you don't agree with, feel free to ask about it. Sometimes it's the preseason grade that hasn't been updated in all 22 yet, but I'm not just going to knock a player down just because I haven't been able to fully watch him this year. I think that's disingenuous because what I saw is some really good talent. Now, we'll have some discussions about some certain players, but let's get on with it. Below my board, all the great ways to get involved in the community. Easy way to do it, 2 clicks away, wherever you want to go. That link tree in the description. Super easy, has everything already laid out there for you, including our sponsor of the show, UnderDog Fantasy. Use that to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you sign up. And it sends me $60, which always appreciated. But let's get on into this. This is based on the current Super Bowl odds, which I could have done just the PFF, their draft order that's based on the records. But I mean, I owe you guys a little bit of realism here, even though it's kind of fun to mess around with a sim that has the current draft order where everything's a little wonky. But starting at the first overall pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. Again, no trades in this one. We're going to be doing trades mock drafts as we do every single week on, I think, Wednesday as well as Thursday. But with the number 1 overall pick, if the Panthers cannot move off of it, I actually want to take an alternate route about not going quarterback here. We've seen the rise and fall of several quarterbacks, and we will be featuring Jalen Milroe most likely in the first round of this. But, there's certainly been a big shift of the quarterback rooms, which means that you can definitely get some good value down the board. What I have seen is that you do not need an elite quarterback in terms of elite talent in order to lead this team to victory. What you really need is someone who can just keep you in the game, manage the game, get the ball to the playmakers. And if you can do that, you can be successful. The beautiful thing about this draft class is that there are players like that you don't need to spend a first-round pick on. So for the Carolina Panthers specifically, I will be looking elsewhere. Now, you can look at Travis Hunter. I think that it's an intriguing option, but he would be your Deontay Johnson replacement. There's no way he goes to the NFL as a corner, as much as I'd want him to. The fact is, money for wide receivers are exponentially higher than the money that gets paid to corners. And in the NFL, you cannot have Travis Hunter on his 100th rep in the 4th quarter going up against Tyreek Hill on his 50th rep. That's just not going to happen. And yes, you can talk about a bunch of other stuff, but like realistically, you just can't have that. So Travis Hunter is going to be a really solid player, but to be number 1 overall, as people say, because of how damn dynamic he is on both sides of the ball, we have to look at 1 because it's just not feasible. It's not fair to him either to expect him to play 100% when, he's having to do it every single play. So with that being said, with him featured as a wide receiver in this, I will still be going Will Johnson. He is the best player in the country. He might be the best cornerback in the entire country at the moment in terms of where he is, the experience he has, and the talent he has as well. I think maybe 2 or 3 years into his NFL career, he will be the best corner in the NFL. I don't see many corners that have the IQ, the athleticism, the physicality, as well as the experience of being a true number 1 corner that Will Johnson does. So I think that he is truly special. And this team, yeah, edge rusher might be a little bit more valuable. Linebacker might be a little bit more helpful right out the gate. But first off, don't force a need. Go after the best player available, and that's Will Johnson. So we're going to be going after him. Again, this is 2 rounds, 1 video, so stay tuned for the second pick for the second round. For the Patriots at pick number 2, I think that's pretty obvious that offensive line is an issue that still needs to be addressed. Will Campbell's my guy. I think that especially this past week after Layden Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, allowed 7 pressures. So obviously Rookie Watch is going to be coming out tomorrow. I wait until the Monday night games get done to be able to do that now. But, it's something where I'm thinking Caden Wallace can kick in to guard. I think that's the long-term answer there. And I know there's some issue with Owenu as well, but I think Owenu needs to continue being proficient as a tackle. You need Caden Wallace as a right guard. and then you can kind of figure out the rest. I think Will Campbell needs to be the long-term answer at left tackle here. I don't think there's really another option that is logical. You might say go Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, and you know what? Perfectly reasonable because Travis Hunter is an awesome player. However, I want to go after Will Campbell here because this is not a great offensive line class. I wish it were, but it just at the moment does not look nearly as great at the moment. Again, big asterisk, as what I thought. And or as what I hoped for, not as what I thought, because there's a lot of guys I was worried about being hybrids. And again, worst case scenario, you could also have an elite guard in Will Campbell. I do think he is really special. At pick number 3 for the Tennessee Titans, this is going to be Travis Hunter or an offensive lineman. To me, if Will Campbell were here, that's my selection. Kelvin Banks is the highest graded SEC offensive lineman. However, I did do my reevaluation on him, and I still have my concerns. Leverage is a big issue for me. I didn't really see leverage as an issue for JC and Latham. So for me, I don't really see a pathway to success that is already proven by the organization to train their offensive linemen to improve in that regard. And when you are pretty much, I call it toesy, when you're really nose over the toes and ending up on the ground a lot, it's not a great recipe for success. I'll put it that way. So unfortunately, as much as I would love to go after offensive tackle, I will be going after receiver here. And I think Travis Hunter as a receiver in that Tyler Boyd role in a Callahan offense is creme de la creme. That's how you're able to scheme yourself into getting an absolutely amazing player. Again, Travis Hunter is a receiver in the NFL. When you look at the money, when you look at also the fun players have, in my opinion, like if you mess up on a couple plays as a wide receiver, whoop-de-doo, because if you make one good play, then you're all of a sudden a god. If you're a corner, you slip up in 1 or 2 plays, people will start clowning you. I mean, look at Keely Ringo. The dude messes up once a game, and it's like, well, you don't look too good. So I think that just being a receiver, I mean, again, feel free to push back on that, but I feel like the actionary rather than the reactionary positions are far more enjoyable. I don't think that's going to play a big factor. It's really the money, the fact that wide receiver 23 makes the same as corner 4. Pick number 4 for the New York Giants. This is an interesting one because I am debating not going after a quarterback here. I don't really think that there's going to be an opportunity for me because as much as I absolutely adore Ben Morrison, I do think that this organization, especially with the way that they drafted Andrew Phillips down the board, they do have an eye for talent. In the second round, they mentioned 2 names in the Hard Knocks series in Kamari Lassiter and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Both of those guys are very, very talented corners who, definitely would have been upgrades to the team. I feel like they're pretty astute for being able to find defensive back talent. But the one thing they haven't had is a quarterback, and I want to be able to ride the hot hand. And, Jalen Milroe, there's a lot of questions with him coming into the year. And I still have Cam Ward as my QB1 or QB2 at the moment. Miller Moss my QB1. That is pending review for the games this week. Cam Ward had a very up and down game versus Virginia Tech. And, certain people want to just blame the call as the reason they won without being able to give Cam Ward credit for actually being able to get the team in position to at least be able to win after, being down early. So, shout out to Cam Ward for that. I mean, honestly, shout out to Carson Beck for being absolute ass cheeks in the beginning, but actually really making a strong comeback in the second half. Not saying that he's worth anywhere near the 4th overall pick. I've never been on that stance in the first place as much as I've forced myself to take him, but I digress. Jalen Milroe is someone who had a ton of questions. And again, he's going to be someone who's going to be vaulting up my board. Want to be able to sit down and really digest the All-22 to give him that grade boost. But watching him have 4 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays in a game that was extremely pivotal, watching the athleticism as well being unbelievable. This is a game changer. And to me, as much as I would want to say, let's pump the brakes, this is exactly the game he needed for me to say, fuck it, let's go. You proved yourself. And he proved himself to be a top 5 pick at the moment. Again, not many quarterbacks have done that versus a Georgia defense, especially, and yet, to be fair, Ryan Williams had an amazing game. But Jalen Milroe put him in those positions as well. Not saying that it's completely on Jalen Milroe at the same time, but the fact is you kind of need 2 to tango, and he did a fantastic job But we'll be evaluating it. Feel free to follow me over on X because I can guarantee you I will be breaking that game down as I give Milroe his updated grade. At pick number 5 for the Denver Broncos. It's a team that, they have particular issues at a significant amount of places. I do think offensive tackle is a route that I want to go for the future. I do know there's been some guys filling in. I think forgetting who's filling in for McGlinchey. He's not doing a horrible job. So, but I do like the idea. At this point, it's realistic, especially with the efficiency of Texas's offensive line, to say Kelvin Banks is one of the few first-round quality players that people are going to be looking at. So Kelvin Banks is going to be my selection there. Worst case scenario, you kick him to guard. I don't think you ever will because he's 6'4". That's the worst case scenario. But he's a very, very good player. It's just, for me, I don't have a first-round grade on him just yet. And as much I want to, I love offensive linemen. You guys know that. I mean, I have Marcus Bowe up here again, pending review. I love the guy. I love Marcus. This is no shade at him, but he's not a top 5 player on my board based on his recent performances. As much as I love him to death, he's still going to be a top 32 guy, 95% sure. But there's just not many top offensive tackles in this class. So, and then to be fair, Marcus ended up saying in the interview that we just did, that I don't know if he has 33-inch arms. So there is a potential worry there that he will be a guard. But this is not the conversation to talk about Marcus here. This is time to talk about the Raiders. Raiders at pick 6. Now, this team's in a little bit of a tough spot. Quarterback-wise, I still think you can definitely get an upgrade. I think Cam Ward's a very smart idea. Now, if Giants fans, you don't want Milroe, you want Ward, I feel perfectly fine justifying switching back and forth. But this is a team that will most likely not have Davante Adams next year, just based on the overall vibe. AP standing on business. I certainly think that there is a realm where you are going to be looking for another weapon over Davante Adams. And I think running back, this is the dark horse pick here. Ashton Jeanty might be the 6th overall pick. You look at Bijan Robinson, he was the number 8 overall pick. Technically, Jahmyr Gibbs was the Lions' pick if they had to stay at pick 6. So don't think, I'm not going to take it this high, but don't count it out that Jeanty goes in the top 10. Unfortunately, history has shown us that going after the running back position this early is very possible. I'm not going to do it. But again, this is a team. This is probably the team. I could really see Ashton Jeanty going in the top 10 too. But Cam Ward's going to be my selection. Now, you could talk about Shedeur Sanders, the connection that he has to the organization, because I'm pretty sure AP and Dion have a connection there. But when it comes to Cam Ward, I think the talent is undeniable. I think it's a guy who, given the right situation, given the right weapons, given the right time, we've seen him get better and better every single year. And I could probably only see that continuing. He ended up struggling versus Virginia Tech, and I'm, again, pending review of that game. But, pending all 22 review of that game. Again, let me put that asterisk in there. I don't like formulating an official opinion based on, normal, game tape. I want to be able to see coaching tape to actually watch, slow it down, be able to understand why are you throwing, when are you throwing, what does it look like. And sometimes you can't blame a quarterback for a certain rep that goes wrong their way. Might even be a turnover-worthy play, but the majority of the time, it's an open play in college. It's the read that they're supposed to make, and sometimes the defender is just worth giving credit on a play. I think we'll wait to see that, but Cam Ward, talent-wise, has truly shown that he's worth even a number 1 overall selection. It's just we need to see that this Virginia Tech having to bounce back is not a weekly thing, that it is just a display of his resilience after he slips up. So this is going to be really key next week. Cam Ward doesn't have very many gimme games, if any, for the rest of the year. So it's going to be a good test, and we're going to see it week after week for him. But at the moment, I have him going at pick 6. At pick 7, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Offensive line, another key position to go after this team. I also think corner is extremely smart, and this team really does need it. You need somebody to be next to Tyson Campbell for the future. Ben Morrison's physical. He's smart. He's experienced. He's a corner 1. I think it's a no-brainer. Pick number 8 for the Arizona Cardinals. Was not a pretty game. It's not a pretty game. And looking at the options that are available, Mason Graham is a very, very solid option here. Probably the guy who I'm going to be going after, even though, to be fair, we might get Kenneth Walker, Dalen Walker in round 2. Tyleik Williams could be there. Based on not trading, I do kind of feel comfortable kind of slipping on that defensive interior position. Looking at other positions, though, edge rusher certainly on the table. James Pierce extremely likely. And knowing how, where the hell is, where's my guy at? Did they actually put him at pure linebacker? Did they put Jalen at linebacker? I'm going to attack them. They're putting Jalen at pure linebacker for the time being. But looking at the options that are presented to us, and we're having Harold Perkins return because he tore his ACL. I assume he will not be coming out in this draft. He still could be, because apparently there's not many first round, in quotes, players in this class. Could still be able to be one of them even after the injury. But I think edge rusher is one of those positions in round 2 you are going to be very uncomfortable. Now, Abdul Carter had his breakout game. That makes me super excited for him, and I'm very excited to regrade him for that game. But I'm going to go after the player who's been consistently effective, and even he was far more effective than Mikael Williams was. We're going to go Jalen Walker here. He is a linebacker, but he's also an edge rusher, and I think that's the position that would be best for him there for the Cardinals. At pick number 9 for the Los Angeles Rams, looking at the options that are given to us, wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan is hard to pass on, but this is one of the teams that consistently hits on post round 1 targets. Very similar to the Steelers. Do not put yourself out of a position that you are really strong in by being able to force a need early. Offensive tackle at left tackle is not a bad position to go. The problem is there's nobody to go with. And finally, you got Charles Grant in here. That makes me so happy. Now we got Membu as well. We do not have, unfortunately, my boy Marcus Bowe. We'll still have to pray to the gods that he ends up coming onto the table, unless, drum roll, he's in here and he's not. RIP to that. But I digress. Still got some good players in here. Glad to see that PFF is updating it. I still think that corners throughout the Rams will go. They continue patching their needs with really solid value. And I love Tacario Davis. I think this is a player that is perfect for the Rams. However, at pick 9, I'm going after a player that I think is far more effective, and that's Denzel Burke. Tacario Davis is someone where if you can move down, get extra draft capital, this is a perfect system fit with a really good player that just doesn't come close to Burke, in my opinion, in terms of the consistency. So I'm going to go Denzel Burke here, because if you're going to be picking in the top 10, you don't really have an excuse to get it wrong. Pick number 10 for the Miami Dolphins. I really want to go offensive line here, guys, but you have to look at the organization. The organization does not give a rat's ass about offensive line this early. And I'm trying to at least get a little bit of a realistic touch to a very unpredictable draft. And I'm probably going to go after Malachi Starks here. A second safety, I think, is a really prime opportunity to continue to make this defense more and more effective, especially with some question marks in the quarterback room. This is a perfect draft on day 2 to be able to draft someone in the 3rd round, maybe that can remain competitive rather than having to, Frankenstein a team together, so to speak. I'm going to be going Malachi Starks here. I think that his talent is through the roof. Even in a game where I had him on a stock down list, he had 2 defensive stops and he had 5 receptions for like 60 yards. And one of those was the crazy catch by Ryan Williams where he was just juggling it. There's certain things that are not super duper week to week translatable that makes me a little bit more confident in Malachi Starks. At number 11 for the Los Angeles Chargers, it's a team that got close to beating the Chiefs. And, the Chiefs, we'll talk about Rashee Rice. Obviously, he's a friend of the show. He's the first interview I had on the show, someone who I got to know over there at SMU. But, if you weren't able to beat him without Rashee, do have some concerns there. Corner is certainly one of them. You're looking at ASJ up for a contract. And looking at the corner that you drafted, Tarheeb Steele actually did a pretty good job, and I'm not even a big Tarheeb guy. It was one of my least favorite picks because I was like, dude, get Cam Hart. And then you did it on top of that. But Cam Hart specifically, he has a very similar profile to Tacario Davis. Not necessarily the fastest guy on planet Earth. However, big, physical, long arms, and high IQ. And I think that that's a position that you'll certainly be looking at. And to be fair, still waiting on some more corners. PFF, like you gotta help a boy out here, man. But it's down to 2 players for me at the moment. It's gonna be Genty, or else it's going to be or else it's gonna be Tacario Davis, and I'm gonna go Tacario in this instance. I do think that it's very likely Genty could be the pick there, but again, with ASJ potentially going to be on his way out, this is a player who fits the exact profile that the organization has shown that they like, and it's a position of massive need. So Tacario Davis will be the selection there. At pick number 12 for the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be Ashton Genty. I know that wide receiver is the position that might be better value, but if bottom line, to be blunt, if we can see Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 12, we sure as hell can see Ashton Genty at pick 12. Pick number 13 for the Chicago Bears. Mason Graham's here. Hard to say no to that. I love the surgeon, like the, I was about to say the resurgence, but like not again. You guys know what I'm talking about. The rise of Gervin Dexter. He's been doing a phenomenal job. And Mason Graham and him have a similar skill set of that quick win in the pass rush. I certainly think that that could be worth it at this pick. Now, again, we have multiple picks. Remember that. There are a lot of offensive linemen that we could take. And just keep it in mind that Karan Amagaji is still available. And I don't have any of these tackles being worth it. Again, Marcus Bowe may be number 5 on my board, but that is pending review. And I don't think he's going to be there. So right now, the only options that I think are worth it are Booker and Jackson. And are Booker and Jackson worth the downgrade for what the player we'd get in the second round? Or is the downgrade to a really consistent player? I mean, hell, we might even get lucky and go after a player I have a higher grade than this, but Tate Ratledge. At 33, I can almost guarantee you we might get Donovan Jackson, but let's just say Tate Ratledge. That's worth it to me. That downgrade is far more worth it than the other way around. We're going to go Mason Graham here and just get an unbelievable, unstoppable defensive interior, because a lot of people say external, like edge rusher pressure, that's where you can really win the big bucks. But I lived in Los Angeles. I saw year after year that internal pressure with Aaron Donald, not saying they're the same remotely, but internal pressure on a consistent basis is far more dangerous. Now, feel free to debate me on that, but I feel like a quarterback can evade edge rusher pressure, or at least more used to evading edge rusher pressure, than watching the interior of their offensive line absolutely crumble on a down-to-down basis. But continuing on, at pick 14 for the Indianapolis Colts, a lot of good players still on the board. I still love the idea of going after cornerback at this point. Siobhan Revell, not going to be included in this. He tore his ACL. Now, again, you look at him, he's a senior. I do think he might redshirt, though, but he's still, he still might be coming out. I don't think he'll be a first-round pick, certainly not at pick 14. Now, other positions you could target. I don't think edge 2 is out of the question at pick 14. You could go back-to-back years with that as your option. A lot of people like to go tight end here. I just think there's too many mouths to feed. And defensive back, I like to go safety. I like to go after corner as well. To be fair, don't really think a safety, apart from Nicky Monwari, would be remotely worth it here at pick 14. And I know that I am very, 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 very high on Nicky Monwari. So this is a spot where I say trade down if you can. But since we cannot, go after the best player available. And I think that, to be fair, there might be some other players that are higher on my board, but being able to get a player like Nick Scourton, who brings that physical upside, the higher IQ, and the run stuffing ability that complements Latu well for the future at a position that's very expensive, is prime opportunity to be able to really solidify a future edge duo. And now you have 4 years of affordable edge contract with 2 players who are absolutely dynamic at their position. I love him to death. Got to give him credit. Nick Scourton at 14. At pick 15 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have some great receivers on the board. The thing is, guys, stick to your strengths. Unless it becomes unbelievable, but this class has shown me, if anything, receivers is a position you don't need to target early. I mean, there are wide receivers that aren't even mentioned in this group of players right here that are even better than some of the guys who are listed as high as Juice Wells. Like, there's a lot of really solid, contributable talent in this class. What I don't really see are, well, I mean, we see some depth at quarterbacks, but corner. I mean, we still could definitely target one of them because a corner two, if Dante Jackson can't stay healthy, is certainly worth targeting. But running back, there's a lot of good players, but not many of them that could work in this system. What I've been seeing on a down-to-down basis is an embarrassment from Najee Harris. We know that he has a great heart. He has a great head on his shoulders. He's a good guy. And he's someone who's great for the locker room. He's a bust of a first-round pick. He had some good years in there, absolutely. You say, like, oh, man, he had 1,000 yards multiple times. And, like, think about it in terms of first-round running back talent. They should be reliably the center, the focal point of the offense, especially when our receiving talent is Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens primarily. We need him to be a focal point at that point. And he has failed to do so this year in a contract year. Not saying he's like an actual bust in terms of his entire career, but looking at him right now, you're not seeing a first-round quality running back. And you're in a system with Arthur Smith that has proven to push running backs to their limits and be able to really make them into the best versions of themselves. Quinshon Judkins is my pick. To me, he is the second best running back in the nation at the moment. Again, TBD in terms of, like, I want Quinshon to go up against like a legitimate superpower defense in order to really boost his grade. But so far this year, he's done an unbelievable job. Pick number 16 for the Washington Commanders. Offensive tackle, apparently not the issue anymore. I mean, Brandon Coleman, after having multiple weeks of being absolute butt cheeks, just came out and was like, I'm going to be the best pass blocker on the team. Like, insane. Honestly, shout out to him. That's honestly a fantastic feat. So I think edge rusher is the route you go here. And you know what? I want to go with the flow. I put Milroe high. I am excited for Abdul Carter. Like, look at this. Week after week after week. Getting better and better and better. And that 13.2% pass rush win rate, not good. Until you realize that he sucked the first 3 weeks. And he went up against his best opponents in week number 4 and felt like he finally clicked. Now, will this continue? We will see. However, what I've seen is he's only getting better, and something finally worked. And it worked unbelievably well versus real NFL talent. Now, I don't know if they're going to be top-end NFL talent, but I don't think he's faced top-end NFL talent yet. So, for me, obviously, you guys know I love Penn State. He's even up to 260, and I don't think he's playing at 260 right now. You see him, he is like really lean. But this is somebody that I'm going to give the nod right now because he looks like he's finally putting it together. And the thing I love more than anything, more than players I love super high on my board, is watching players who I say they're developing actually develop. That's the coolest thing to me, watching these players actually be able to live up to their hype. I'm not someone who likes to be let down by players that I just pull a projection out of my ass, because that's what a lot of people do. Which, to be fair, I guess they're like, trying to tell you who should be good, but you're really guessing at that point. Here, the guess worked, and I am so happy for Abdul Carter. Good job by him, man. Fantastic player, and it's a position of need. I mean, again, you could have went after corner there, but just focus on what works. Pick 17 for the New Orleans Saints. We're going to go after wide receiver. Embarrassment of riches at this point. We're going to go after T-Mac. I think he complements the receiving core unbelievably well. He's a fantastic weapon. Again, it's just a very deep receiver class that you can focus on guys at other positions, and other positions do not have that level of depth. So, again, quality of draft class, especially for a lot of teams that are looking for contributors around their whole entire team and maybe don't need just one final piece, we'll be looking for a different way to organize the positions on their board. Pick number 18 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think edge rusher is still the way to rock. Zy McCollum looks fantastic, but you know what? I'm going to change things up a little bit. We're going to go tight end. I don't think Cade Otton is a future tight end one of any team. And it's kind of been like randomly your tight end 1 for a little bit longer than what it should be. So Colson Loveland's going to come in there. Now, again, a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. However, I think Colson Loveland, as his receiving talent, will provide even more benefits as just being, especially when Mike Evans heads out. There's a lot of target share for Colson Loveland to be able to absorb, and I think he's a fantastic weapon. Especially in an offense that doesn't pass the ball at all, he is still somehow, some way, relatively productive. Pick number 19 for the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that people are probably bummed that they couldn't end up getting their quarterbacks here with Cam Ward or Jalen Milroe, because those are like the fun ones that you can stick to the Seattle Seahawks, right? Now, I'm going to hold off on going QB for this team because I don't think that you necessarily need it. Again, if you're just inside the playoffs, a lot of things are going right, and one of the things that is not is that right tackle position. I'm going to be going Emory Jones here out of LSU. Worst case scenario, you have to kick him to guard, but I really do believe in him as a future tackle at the moment. Again, pending review. But so far, I've really loved what Emory Jones brings to the table. He's a feisty player. He ended up being my tackle 1 at the start of the year, but I am still, you see him at 18, I'm still relatively aware of the fact that he very well might end up being just a guard. But just a guard on a team that still could use an infusion of youth and energy in there, not going to complain. Pick number 20 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's help out that defense. I don't know why Kenneth Grant is here. I do not know why Kenneth Grant's rated this high. Look at that pass rush win rate, guys. This is somebody, I adore Kenneth Grant. Like, let me put it out there. He finally had a week where statistically he did well, but I want Kenneth Grant to do well. I love his personality. I love his size and his athleticism. But there is no stat that represents someone who should be remotely taken in the first round, let alone the first 2 days. So keep that in mind. Because I love him, but there's a big asterisk there. There's a certain point where it's like you're really saying someone who can barely beat the run 5% of the time and barely beat his, 1 out of every 20 reps win his rep in pass rush? You got to do one right at the very minimum. And especially be taken this high, you got to do one at an elite level. But looking at other positions for the team, Mikael Williams, even he, just not there for me. And again, I'm not basing my opinion off of these stats. These stats just reflect my opinion and actually more so affirm it than anything. James Pierce doesn't fit. I really did want to get somebody for the defensive interior. There is someone, though. You can talk about Deion Walker here, and again, not necessarily the best statistics. But right here, when I said you got to do one correctly, Tyleik Williams is right up there. Now, one thing I realized, and I noted this when I was talking about defensive interior players from Ohio State, notably Michael Hall, they don't know how to teach their defensive interiors how to pass rush. I don't know why, but the defensive scheming, I saw them consistently put these defensive interior players in the worst positions possible. And Michael Hall was a very good defensive interior player who still somehow produced. Tyleik Williams is a completely different build, literally 50 pounds heavier than Michael Hall during the season. And luckily, he is very confident at least making sure that you're in passing situations because he takes out the run. And if you're not taking him, the Packers might, the Cowboys certainly might, and then you continue down the list. There are many teams that'd be very blessed to have an elite run defender with pass rushing upside because of the defensive system that Tyleik Williams is able to offer. Pick number 21 for the Green Bay Packers. At this point, Luther Burden's on the board. We might actually just curve the way that Green Bay actually plays offense here. But I do know offensive line is still a position you guys certainly want to address. I think Zach Tom should be the right tackle of the future. I think you could even have Jordan Morgan as the left tackle of the future. I think the center spot with Myers needs to go. I mean, you could go with Zach Tom, but again, don't fix something at the tackle position that's working, my opinion. Bring back Rasheed Walker, maybe. But I think the center role should go to Jonas Savania because you have instant chemistry there. If you do end up, let's say don't want Sean Ryan to be the starter in the long run, even though he has been starting recently, but maybe Jordan Morgan could be the left tackle for the future as well, but have Jonah as well as Jordan on the same line. You have that instant chemistry, and Jonah can take a little bit of time to develop. So I really do like that about him. Or if you want Zach Thomas center, Jonah has experience at right tackle, but he's somebody that I really do think has a brighter future as a guard rather than a pure tackle. Pick number 22, or not a guard, excuse me, a center, because he is center versatile, which a lot of people think that's his best position. Pick number 22 for the Atlanta Falcons, running this to the podium, Luther Burden. I don't need to explain myself there, and especially for the sake of our time, let's not do that. Pick number 23 for the New York Jets, Isaiah Bond. Allowing a deep threat in this team besides Garrett Wilson might actually open up some really cool opportunities. However, Hassan Reddick, screw you, buddy. I mean, being an absolute douche nozzle. However, all that aside, James Pierce is still somebody who I want to mention here. Yes, the stats aren't phenomenal, but at the same time, I do have faith in him. He's somebody who ended up still flashing out in versus the Kent State game. To be fair, one of his other players did better than he did. So it is on like someone to watch. However, this is an elite system fit. Again, it's like talk about perfect for Hassan Reddick's role. And it's somebody who I think might be being misused there at Tennessee. They have these lighter edge rushers playing in a certain scheme that doesn't necessarily tend to favor the lighter edge rusher. That's why I think Tyler Barron would have been a better fit if they used him as a pure edge. And they just have a very unique defensive system that I think would translate over to the NFL a little bit better than the players did in college. So, or at least the system doesn't work in the NFL as much as it does college, meaning the players don't actually look as good as what they should if they were put in the correct position. But at pick number 24 for the Dallas Cowboys, defensive interior certainly could be the focus here. Running back wise, I'm not seeing any of them that's worth it here at this pick. And shout out to Caleb Johnson. Love that dude. Trevor Etienne has not shown the ability that he did at Florida. I know that he's been dealing with some injuries, so TBD on that. But this is a good running back class for depth. There's two guys that are pretty much at the top. I think there's a clear top two. So I'm going to leave those be. I think wide receiver is where we need to go. Isaiah Bond at this point, you need to go after him. He's been unbelievably productive. And, obviously I want to get that drop rate down, but 3 yards per route runs is ridiculous. And this team does need to get somebody to really take the top off the defense. Isaiah Bond is fantastic. Pick number 25 for the Minnesota Vikings, another team that could look at that running back position. However, defensive interior, corner, those, and then of course running back, but again, mentioned why you wouldn't go after said running back. Those are the positions I want to target. And at this point, corner, you do have some guys here who I think could be worth it. And you know what? I got to see Azariah Thomas in person. And my God, he's awesome. He allowed 3 receptions for, I think, 18 yards. But, I saw this guy methodically shut down his receiver every play. And I think he needs to get a lot more respect. I don't know if he comes out, but he's up to 198 pounds as well. So he's almost Will Johnson size. He's unbelievably athletic. He's physical. He's willing to play against the run. He's my number 15 player in the class, and I'm going to go after him. Fentrell Cypress sure as hell ain't going to be going in this mock draft. So he's going to be the placeholder there. Same school, same teammates, but my number 15 player on my board, Azariah Thomas. At pick number 26 for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's edge rusher primarily for me in this team. You might want to go after Mikael Williams. It's tight end or else it's edge. That's the key thing. I think tight end might be the way to go because at 58, I'm really worried about the options available. And especially in Kellen Moore's system, tight end has more value now than ever. And Harold Fannin and Tyler Warren are 2 guys who are going to be getting first-round consideration. Both of them have consistently been putting up yards at an unbelievable rate. And if you guys want to do a quick little comparison, we got 2.95 yards per route run, 100% contested catch rate. Just watch this. Harold Fannin's the highest graded player in college right now. 4.36 yards per route run. Now, he's not going to be a contested catch dude, but look at that drop rate. This guy has just been unbelievably consistent. He's gone up against teams that do have NFL talent as well. And he's a really good after the catch threat. However, I think he's a really willing blocker. Tyler Warren is the better blocker. And at being 20 pounds, actually almost 30 pounds heavier, he's a better system fit. But we still will be seeing Harold Fannin taken in the top 40, no doubt. But Tyler Warren's going to be the selection there. I just think that it's a weird position. It's a weird position to be in because I do not like the edge rushers at this pick. And get a player who's going to be very efficient. Goddard, he's 29. He's not a young cat anymore. You need a future there. I do not think that it's who's the backup right now. He's an SMU tight end as well. Is it Grant Calcaterra? Like, I love SMU. I love Grant Calcaterra. Do not want him being the future for me. But this is a team in the Lions that I think will have a little bit more patience. And Mikael Williams might be worth it at this point. Again, a big project in my opinion. Big project. But I do think that Mikael is worth it when you have someone who's a guaranteed producer. The Eagles, I don't trust a guaranteed producer at the moment. Maybe that's something to address at free agency, which kind of already did with Huff, but we'll see what happens there. Pick number 28 for the Houston Texans. Defensive interior is the route that I instantly want to go. I do think that that's just your best return on investment, but safety certainly on the table. I just don't really see one that's necessarily worth it at this point. And, looking at it again, I have my issues with Kenneth Grant. I'm not going to take him in the first anymore. Like, this is someone who's solely round 2. Like, look at Walter Nolan, by the way. Look at this. A 10% pass return rate. Again, look at who's going up against, yes. But that 14.1% run stop rate is ridiculous. I do think that, especially combined with his athleticism, it's someone who needs to be respected. You also want to talk about Aeneas Peebles here. There you go. He's going to be a round 2 pick. That's where he's at right now. But Deone Walker, he doesn't have the stats to back it up, but he is far more efficient than someone who is ranked above him in Kenneth Grant. And I can see the reason why Deone is where he's at, because he needs to work on his pad level. I think that pad level is a lot easier to diagnose than with Kenneth Grant just being almost inefficient. It's interesting spot to be in, but I'll be going Deone Walker because of the fixability of his issues rather than, Kenneth Grant just basically being there as a bigger body with a really, really good motor. Pick number 29 for the Buffalo Bills. Wide receiver, safety, edge. That's where my head's at. Emeka Egbuka has been doing a very solid job this year. I'm going to be continuing to pound the table for him. Pick number 30 for the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. Luckily, Roger Rosengarten's been doing a fantastic job. He ended up coming back. I think he ended up having the top pass blocking grade on the team, or at least one of the top. So I'm going to be going after someone who could develop into the left tackle, but can play an elite left guard for the short term. That is going to be Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Pick number 31 for the San Francisco 49ers. Looks like Pooney transitioned to guard far better than I ever expected. I mean, I loved him at the Senior Bowl. His normal game tape as a tackle did not show the exact same that he showed at the Senior Bowl. It shows you that watching players really be able to be tested is super duper key. And he ended up really thriving in the Senior Bowl. So players who usually do thrive at the Senior Bowl usually do better in the NFL. So I should have trusted my gut with that one. It's just much tougher when you watch him fail at tackle, really hoping for him as a guard, but he's doing a fantastic job. I'll call it right there. I ended up, I guess, in quotes, missing on that one. But continuing on, though, for the Niners, it's corner, it's tackle. That right tackle spot probably needs a little bit of help. Ariante Ursary will need a little bit of time to develop, but this is the proper guy to bring onto the squad. And he ended up bouncing back and having a little bit of a struggle, but allowing only 5 pressures on the year through 5 games. I mean, I'll take it for him. He's been doing a much better job this year, in my opinion, than he did last year. And it's someone who's a perfect fit for the Niners. Great on the move, very powerful. Someone who I could really see being a long-term answer there at right tackle. And then if Trent ever wants to retire, the long-term answer even at left. At pick 32 for the Chiefs, offensive line. Again, gotta rock the offensive line, man. Donovan Jackson, probably going to be the best option. We could end up waiting to fill that guard spot and then going with the defensive interior like Kenneth Grant because, you could just take that swing, even though I don't think he deserves it. You could also look at the offensive tackles here. To be fair, Armand Membu very well might be slipping down the board, and you might be able to get yourself a really quality guard there in round number 2. That all being said, I think the best thing you can do, actually, deep down, I want to go Membu here. He's been doing such a good job. I mean, look at that. 2 pressures on the year. Granted, who the hell have they faced? I mean, yeah, that's a very valid argument. But I have him graded very highly as a guard. Very highly as a guard. Actually, where's he at on my board? He's number 44 for me. Like right above Tate Ratledge. Hello, Xavier Nwankpa. But hello to that too. I'm going to hold off on offensive line. We're going to go after actually defensive interior. And this is where we're going to take a reach on Kenneth Grant. But it's worth it solely because if there's anything that needs to be worked on, you have a mentor there in Chris Jones. That's the only reason I'm doing that. But at pick number 33 for the Bears, I'm going to go interior offensive line here with Donovan Jackson. I mean, it was going to be pick 32 potentially or pick number 33. We're going to go with him here at pick 33. At pick 34 for the New England Patriots, could have waited, gotten a solid left tackle here, but it's a position that I'm just really, really tired of not having addressed. So at this point, this is where we're going to go after edge. And you got Princely Umanmielen. That's actually apparently how you say it. I mean, talk about someone who's been efficient. What a baller. What a baller. And then last year, he had even higher percent pass rush win rate. But this year, he's just been a threat. And this is someone you really want on your squad for the future. Damn good player. Pick 35 for the Tennessee Titans. We went after receiver in round 1. Here in round 2, got some really solid options at offensive tackle. Now, I do like Jack Nelson, potentially above the rest of these players. But I also know that, Armand Membu could be a tackle. Could be. Blake Miller is someone who I think will fail as a guard. That's the thing. You need him to work at a tackle or else he's going to fail. There's certain players that I have hope to where if they fail, they'll still work elsewhere. I think Jack Nelson, though, might be worth it at this point. And then either kicking I don't think you kick JC to right tackle. I think you kick Jack Nelson to right tackle. The problem is, can he be a guard? That's the big question right now. With actually all that being said, this is the prime opportunity for Marcus Bowe, tackle out of Purdue. He might be a guard based on his arm length. However, his hand fighting ability is insane. He is ferocious. He is powerful. I'm not taking Xavier Truss in these first 2 rounds, so he'll be my placeholder, and he's also a right tackle, so you get the idea. But this is my number 5 player. Again, asterisk, pending review, Marcus Bowe out of Purdue. Pick number 36 for the New York Giants. We got our quarterback in round number 1, Jalen Milroe. Here in round number 2, do we go after Alec Iomaner? That'd be insane. That would be ridiculous. Can you imagine Iomaner with this squad? No, we got to go after a boundary corner. We have to. Again, Siobhan Ravel is returning in this one. We actually already ended up taking one of my guys who's not included with the rest of these players in Azariah Thomas. But continuing on, I love Ephesians Prysock. I love Davison Igbinison. Davison's coming off a bad week, though. He's pending review again. I even reviewed him this year, and he's awesome. But I always love seeing why players fail. I mean, that love is a pretty poor term to describe it, but I prefer to see why a player fails rather than why a player succeeds. But continuing on, for the Giants, I do think going after a corner is the right thing to do. Maxwell Harrison's not a bad choice. You could tell the team struggled without him. But I really do like Jason Marshall. He ended up slipping a little bit for me, but he's actually more of a zone corner than man now. I don't really think that he'd be a very, very good fit based on the archetypes that you have. Siobhan Ravel would fit if I had him in this draft, which I don't. Continuing, though, it's a position I would trade out of between you and me. I'd trade out of here in a heartbeat. I'm going receiver. I want to get a bigger bodied receiver and not have Malik Neighbors be the only guy we can rely on. We're going Alec Iomaner here. Big, physical, 6'2", 6'3". Where's he at? Is he what, 6'3", 210? 6'2", 210. I was right in the first place. 6'2", 210. Reliable receiver. I mean, technically the numbers don't say it this year, but that whole entire offense has been absolute butt cheeks for Stanford. At pick number 37 for the Denver Broncos. A lot of really good players still on the board. Again, Harold Perkins is returning in this. Same thing as Siobhan Ravel. We ended up going after offensive tackle in round number 1. Defensive back, you could get a third guy. I love to see Riley Moss is actually taking his steps up, doing a good job there. But I do think getting another bigger receiver like Alec Iomaner is not a bad idea. And you look at Jaden Higgins, he has been consistently reliable through 4 games. Look at this, 2.81 yards per route run. We were talking about 3 yards per route run earlier. 100% contested catch rate, 0% drop rate. Like, that right there alone is awesome. And then you look at the fact that he's 6'4", 215. That's a perfect pairing for being able to give Bo somebody that you can rely on being able to throw the ball up to. And he's someone who is sitting at 36 on my big board. And that's with guys above him who are pending review who I can guarantee you will drop. So he's going to be back in my top 32 because his grade is up to date and he's doing a fantastic job. This is somebody who has that physicality, has the route running ability. I just want him to fake the defender more than just run his route well. And I think that's the next step of his game that is, in my opinion, pretty easy to teach. Pick number 38 for the Las Vegas Raiders. We ended up going quarterback in round number 1. We are going running back here in round number 2. And I think Kyle Monangai might have to be the guy here. Got a pretty good elusiveness rating right there, but he has just been consistently putting up hundreds of yards per game. And I mean, you could talk about Caleb Johnson here as well. Caleb Johnson's been an absolute beast. I got to be honest. He's been somebody who's like unbelievably reliable, which you could end up getting in the 3rd round. But you also do have the home run hitter here in Ollie Gordon II. Ollie Gordon, I think, is just having a struggle time for Oklahoma State, not because he's not a good back, but because just Oklahoma State as an offense is just not really clicking. And I think I'm going to give him one more week of being worth a top 50 player. He's not top 50 on my board, but I still will just give him the nod for the time being. At pick 39 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we ended up going after a corner. We did it with Ben Morrison in round number 1. Here in round number 2, we're going offensive tackle, and we're going Jack Nelson, tackle out of Wisconsin. He ended up sliding a little bit on my board, but there is no worries right there because he is still very much worth being taken here at 39. At pick number 40 for the Arizona Cardinals, I don't know why tackle is a primary need for the team, but we ended up going after edge in the 1st. Defensive interior, granted, might be not worth it as much anymore. To be fair, Dante Corleone's been doing a solid job coming off a very dominant week. But you know, you got guys like Shamar Turner. Holy shit, Shamar Turner's been ass. Oh, it sucks because I have him at 35 when he was an edge rusher. And he just absolutely sucks. But Aeneas Peoples is someone who I'm definitely looking into here. The problem is these guys are just super duper light. Same thing with Walter Nolan. He's 295, right? Like, or he is not 305. He's not. To be fair, he's the guy who I'd be wanting to go for the Cardinals here. But let's evaluate other options because I always go after those 2 positions for the Cardinals, right? Running back, you don't need to go after that. Corner, your top 2 players were corners this week, so that's good. You got Budda Baker back there. I certainly could see a linebacker at this point. And you know what? When you get someone like Danny Stutzman, who's been doing a very, very solid job. Same thing with Barrett Carter. Very under the radar. Very under the radar. He's been doing a fantastic job week after week. I like what he brings to the table. Danny Stutzman, to be fair, 18% missed tackle rate this year. A little bit worse than I expected. I'm actually going to opt for Barrett Carter because I'm tired of like not giving these players the respect they deserve. I've been allowing linebackers to slip far further than I think their talent suggests. Barrett Carter is going to be my option here. So we're going to get 1 edge rusher and 1 linebacker. Again, Jalen Walker's not a linebacker for this team. If you want to, you could do that, but you're wasting a player with unbelievable potential as an edge rusher. To be fair, he'll still be a good linebacker, but again, maximize your potential there. Pick number 41 for the Carolina Panthers. We did not go quarterback in round 1. We ended up going after the best player in Will Johnson. Now, I do think wide receiver, far from a bad position to target here, especially when you have someone like Deion Burks who could replace Deontay Johnson perfectly. And with a 3.7% drop rate on the year, I really do like what he can offer to this team in terms of where, he's been dynamic there for Oklahoma. He's been force-fed the ball a ton. Edge rusher, perfectly valid. Problem is, I don't see very many edge rushers worth taking at this point. Like, look at this. Look at Patrick Payton. Absolute ass. I saw him in person. He was not good. And that sucks because I really wanted Patrick Payton to be good. Shamar Stewart, damn. I've just gotten excited about the numbers. You guys know I'm a numbers guy. But I will be actually going and opting for the receiver here. And I never give him enough respect in Deion Burks. I mean, he's sitting right there at 24 on my board. Again, there are players subject to be reviewed. Deion Burks is probably going to go even higher than he is because One of the reasons he is where he's at is because he had like a 15% drop rate there at Oklahoma, or not at Oklahoma, at Purdue. At pick 42 for the Dolphins, offensive line, man. You got Jaden Roberts, but he's been a liability overall. He still has a ton of room to grow. We're going to go Tate Ratledge. Super high floor. Don't overthink it. Pick number 43 for the Los Angeles Chargers. We ended up going after corner in round number 1. Here in round 2, you could go after running back, but this is a team that could certainly snipe it down the board. I'm going after Harold Fannin Jr., tight end of Bowling Green. I ended up talking about him, said he should have been a top 40 pick. Not really any teams that I'd be overwhelmingly pushing for a tight end. So the first team I really felt like, besides the Dolphins that need offensive line, I ended up sniping him with Harold Fannin Jr. At pick number 44 for the Cleveland Browns, took a running back in round number 1. Here in round number 2, we certainly can be looking at the quarterback position. Milroe had a struggle week this week, even though he bounced back and ended up doing a fantastic job. Now, again, PFF grades don't mean very much, but I really do love what Milroe has put out on the field, because he did end up having some stupid throws this week, but similar to Carson Beck, who ended up having a struggle game versus Bama and Kentucky, he had pretty much 3 halves where he struggled. That second half versus Bama, he ended up doing a very, very good job. So I got to give Carson credit where credit is due. He ended up coming back and having 4 big-time throws, having over 400 yards. Like, he's still someone who deserves day 2 respect. Same thing with Garrett Nussmeier. Same thing with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur's been doing a really, really good job. Like, a really good job. Like, there's no doubt about it. But, again, when you have all these players with not very much talent differentiating them, you might want to look elsewhere, because you can really get some good value. And when you're losing 2 of your top receivers, this is the class to go for it. And someone who I really love is Ty Felton. Week after week after week, this dude's been putting up monster numbers. Apart from this past week where he still ended up doing a very good job versus Indiana, like, he's been putting up like 150 yards a game. We're going to be going Ty Felton here out of Maryland. He's just unbelievably dynamic, somebody who I really think deserves more respect than he gets. Pick 45 for the Chicago Bears. Already went interior offensive line once. You could try to go after offensive tackle here. I just don't think that's the right move. Now, center, I think you guys have said this plenty of times, the primary position to target. But you could also target it with Jake Slaughter in round number 2. Other positions I really like to address, defensive back. Even though Keon Saab sucked this past week, I still think that he is someone who's still worth your consideration at this pick. Nick Eamon-Wari, this dude's a baller. I mean, he's somebody who just gets... when you get someone who's 6'3", 230, and can run in the 4.3s, it's kind of hard to say no. But I don't think there's DBs that have really earned that right in this class. I personally might even look at somebody to compete at left tackle. And, if they end up failing, you can kick Donovan Jackson to center. But imagine Donovan Jackson back with Josh Simmons. And again, 1 pressure the entire year. Granted, they haven't faced very much. But, Josh Simmons has been doing a good job. And you get that instant chemistry there with Donovan Jackson. I am going to go after it. And Karan Amagaji, it's not like a lost cause. Injuries happen all the time. You need quality depth. But you get instant chemistry with Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons, probably going to be the route that might be the best. Pick number 46 for the Indianapolis Colts. Harold Fannin would have been my dream pick here, just because at this point, then it's a more reliable option. You don't have to really test the waters too much. But Kevin Winston Jr., not a bad choice. Jalen Charlie's been doing a good job, but he's a will linebacker. Like, you might say, oh, well, he brings the boom, but, Kevin Winston, to be fair, he's been hurt, but he's still a fantastic player. I really do like him. Xavier Nwankpa, besides the fact that you just cannot put this guy in man-to-man coverage, this guy's a fantastic player. Undeniably fantastic. We already went after a corner in the first with Azariah Thomas, correct? No, Nick Scout. Ooh, we went after. I forgot about that. We're going corner here in round 2. We got to go corner. And Tommy Hill has been doing a very solid job. I mean, again, kind of got roasted this past week. RIP to that. But only 100 yards on the season. Somebody who is known for his high IQ, very good motor, and very good physicality. Kind of hard to deny. Someone who got 42 yards in the season has been pretty much the best defender every week on Florida. We'll go after Jason Marshall Jr. here. How about that? To be fair, you look at his size, 6'1", 201, physical, high IQ, zone coverage, very smart. This is somebody with the IQ that I loved in terms of being able to recognize deep routes that I fell in love with Jalen Jones about. So actually, the more I think about it, the better it gets. Pick 47 for the Steelers. Wide receiver certainly could be on the table here. We've taken a lot of them already, so there's no real need to focus on it. Bo Collins dropping 2 passes this week really pisses me the fuck off. Like, he's been doing actually pretty solid all year long until now, all times. But, you got to do what you got to do, right? I do think that corner's not out of the question for this team. Offensive line, technically, as well. I mean, unfortunately speaking, it's just not great. Not great at the moment in terms of efficiency of the offensive line. Apart from Zach Frazier, he's been doing really, really well. And to be fair, Mason McCarr's been doing better than I expected. But we went running back in round 1. I still think, even if we bring back our star quarterback in Justin Fields on a 1-year, 3-year contract, nothing beats having a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. And as much as I love Fields, I still think if he does command more than $40 million a year, because let's just say he starts going off, you're really going to have to start sacrificing other positions. And I don't think that Drew Allar would be a net negative. I also don't think Justin Fields so far has proven that he is fully capable of being a franchise quarterback. As much as I love him, as much as I want him to do that, I'm still not sold. And with Drew Allar here at 47, who exemplifies what it is to be a Steeler, hard to bring down, physical, willing to push for the extra yards, big arm, big plays, I think that's worth it. And he loves his tight ends. Kind of an Arthur Smith guy right there. But again, if you want to opt for another player, that's perfectly reasonable. I just really love Drew Allar. I think that he's a perfect fit for the Steelers. And we have both the quarterbacks on 1-year deals. I mean, at the end of the day, you still need backup talent as well. And in the second round, if you get someone who, especially with Justin being a physical guy, Justin could get hurt. This is perfect insurance policy. Pick number 48 for the Commanders. Went after edge in round number 1. Going corner here in round number 2. Quincy Riley, but I love Quincy. I love Quincy. He hasn't had a great year statistically, but I do think Dave Benson, coming off his worst week, still is worth a second-round pick. He's somebody, this is an updated grade for him, by the way, at 6 overall. I think he's fantastic. He just had a struggle week, and I want to know why. But he's going to be my number 6 player. He's physical. He's, he just needs to turn his head around to go after the freaking ball. But we'll see what happens as to why he got beat. But he's still well worth being able to spend the pick on at 48 because you guys need it. Pick number 49 for the Saints. Defensive line. We already went after a receiver. I do think you could try to go after a high-end edge rusher, but there's just not really one that I trust at this pick. Safety, I think this is the prime opportunity. You can go after Kevin Winston here, but I think you want to swing for the fences. And if you want to swing for the fences, go Nicky Bonwari, 6'3", 227, pick 6 capabilities through the roof. And I feel like he's a Saint, just somebody who's going to be a pick 6 machine. You have physicality, great size, but also great ball skills and after the catch ability to be able to house it. That's how you change games, by changing the momentum. At pick 50 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we went after tight end in round number 1. Edge would be proper here. Again, I'm not really super ecstatic about the edges. Again, Harold Perkins going to be returning in this. We're going to be going Danny Stutzman. I think that continuing to develop the linebacking core with more and more talent is going to be your best return on investment. Danny Stutzman's also just been very, very reliable overall. And I think that we need to start putting more respect on these linebackers' names. It's a position that's been very difficult to be played in the NFL, and these players are actually doing a very good job at it. Pick number 51 for the Seahawks. I can see tight end being here, but went after a tackle in round number 1, a right tackle specifically. I think that you could go after a boundary corner too, because, again, Devin's going to be in the slot, but I just don't really trust the corner talent at this point. You could go after your safety, though. I know that you guys have always talked about it, like, get your guy, and Keon Saab's here because he had a struggle week versus Georgia, and sometimes players need to get kicked in the nuts to be able to bounce back. And I think that might be, rather than being kicked in the nuts, a kick in the ass to be better. Keon Saab is going to be a better pro than what he performed like versus Georgia. Pick 52 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Went after defensive interior for them, which I think is super crucial. Going after a wide receiver on the boundary might also be crucial. And Trey Harris is coming off 176 yard and a touchdown week. That's a perfect guy to end up replacing T. Higgins with. T. Higgins, Trey Harris, call it a swap and call it a day. Pick 53 for the Green Bay Packers. It's a team I just don't really think there's that many issues. But, corner already said the value, not necessarily where I want it to be. Wide receiver, don't really see the pure instant upgrade. Edge rusher, though, this is where you could start trying to get a little bit cute. And I'm going to go after Tyler Barron here. I love Tyler Barron to death. He's not featured in this, so this is going to be a placeholder. But Tyler Barron, pending review, could be as high as a top 32 player on my board. And he's about 265. He's extremely fluid as an athlete. Is definitely someone that you want to be able to mix in with the rest of your squad. At pick 54 for the Atlanta Falcons. Corner 2, still a big issue. Went after a wide receiver in round 1. Again, dude, just the corners are not worth it at this point. You could even go double wide receiver, but I don't think that's going to be the issue. That remains, that gives you a net positive result. I do think going after another safety, since you have Bates, but Simmons is there for 1 year, wouldn't be a bad idea. And if you get Kevin Winston at this point, you can continue to develop your secondary with a really quality player right there. At pick 55 for the New York Jets, ended up going after, did we go tight end in round 1? No, we didn't. I remember that we decided not to. We went after James Pierce. And at this spot, I think that was a smart move because don't really like the options at those spots. Wide receiver. I mean, you could go Kyron Lacy here, who could be a legitimately reliable receiver too, to Garrett Wilson. But been having some issues at right tackle. Olu Fashanu is not coping to the NFL very well as a right tackle, and I don't know why you're putting him out there. I don't. You're putting him to the Wolves. He's a raw player that you just put out of position. So, I think we could have all seen that from a mile away. However, I am going to go after Blake Miller, who's a pure right tackle. A pure right tackle. Has allowed 4 pressures on the year. And I think he's just an actual pure right tackle. Put Olu back to left, get Blake back at right. Pick number 56 for the Dallas Cowboys. Went after receiver in round 1. Here in round 2, I'm looking at 2 players. I'm looking at Aeneas Peebles, and I'm looking at Walter Nolan. Aeneas is 290 at 6'1", but he has 18.2% pass rush win rate, and he's gone up against some notable teams as well. But Walter Nolan has been really efficient as a run defender, and I honestly thought he was best as more of that punchy pass rusher. So I really love the fact that somebody who is more so known for their pass rushing upside is being so efficient as a run defender. And you might say, rank 183, Alex, why would you give us that player? Because I think that PFF's wrong in this situation. I think he's much better than 183. I think he's deserving of being maybe at the very latest 83. Walter Nolan, Osa Digizua's up for a contract as well. He's going to be an instant fit. You're going to add that pass rush, but also that run stuffing ability that right now is pretty apparently not on your team. Pick 57 for the Buffalo Bills. We went after wide receiver in the first. We're going to go after a defensive back here in the second. And I'm going Xavier Nwankpa. I think that he is going to be better than what the statistics say. He's a top 32 player for me. Call it a day. Pick 58 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, Harold Perkins is considered returning in this. We went after a tight end in round number 1. So here in round number 2, Colin Oliver is like a dark horse player for this team to like be like a really, really good contributor. But looking at the linebackers, maybe they miscategorized some guys. I don't think they did. To be fair, linebackers not out of the question. Going after someone like Jack Kaiser, who I think is honestly doing a really, really solid job, especially for his first year starting. I think he's doing a solid job. Definitely someone who would be on my short list of guys. I know edge rusher is the key position to target here, but don't force it. Like, let Vic snipe his guy down the board. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to go after a linebacker in round 2. We're going to go after Jack Kaiser. He is not necessarily the biggest guy on planet Earth, nor the strongest, but I think he might be the best linebacker in the class. Just is a little bit more unproven. Pick number 59 for the Detroit Lions. We went after edge in round number 1 with Mikael Williams. We're going to go after interior offensive line here in round number 2 with someone who needs a bit more development. That is Jaden Roberts. He just allowed 4 pressures versus Georgia. He's up to 7 pressures on the year. Just someone who needs to learn and just take a little bit of time to just grow. And I think that this is going to be a good spot for him to do that. At pick 60 for the Houston Texans, you got some pretty interesting needs, I would say, because it's a good team that's very well-rounded. Tight ends deep, quarterbacks solid, wide receiver, your guys are notorious for being deep at that position. You could look at an upgrade on the interior of the offensive line. You got someone like Parker Brailsford, who's a wrestling champion pretty much, who is well-deserving of the respect that this position would entail. And he's a little bit on the lighter side, but you know what? You're getting yourself a quality offensive lineman who I think has allowed 0 pressures all year long. And he's just done a fantastic job. Very strong, up to 290 from 275, but even at 275, I think he's one of those players that deserves to be a top 64 selection. And he's top 40 on my board as well. He's sitting there at 38 on my board. Pick number 61 for the Buffalo Bills. Went after wide receiver, went after defensive back. Let's go after edge rusher. Now is where we can take a swing on a guy. And Jack Sawyer, I mean, talking about that pass rush win rate, even though, again, haven't gone up against NFL tackles yet. But I think that he's been very well-rounded this year, and I like the foundation he's brought to the table. At pick 62 for the Baltimore Ravens, you could go a corner here. Would not blame you to go after a corner here. And Quincy Riley brings the high IQ to the table. He's had some struggles this year. He's been out. But, this is somebody who I do have a lot of faith in. Jabbar Muhammad, though. Jabbar Muhammad's he's kind of tough, man. Kind of tough. You know what? I kind of want to go after Jabbar. He ended up having a little bit of struggle early on, but I think the entire team just had a little bit of a reset period. Jabbar Muhammad's going to be my selection here. He really is like that guy when you put him in man-to-man coverage especially, you are pretty much locked in with him. He is not getting away from you. So, again, Perkins and Ravel are considered returning in this. For the Niners at pick 63, this is another time for us to go after a corner. And you got Quincy Riley here. To be fair, you could develop some more guys and then see how that goes. Kobe Bryant's a little bit too thin for this division. I'm just not a big Jedi Barron fan as a boundary corner. I mean, you look at the stats, he's done a phenomenal job, but I really need to dig in and see a little bit more. Like, I have not seen him do that degree of dominance. But we went after a tackle in round number 1. Here in round number 2, I mean, defensive line is actually a pretty big position. Let's go after Aeneas here. You could even use him as a flex edge rusher as well with that 18% pass rush win rate. I think that's going to be someone who could bring a very unique presence to the table that you might not have expected. And at pick 64, I am actually going to be going and representing my favorite player that has yet to be selected, but someone who I absolutely adore. Right tackle, but I think even better right guard. At number 44 overall on my board, Armand Membu. Right tackle again, right guard, replacement for Trey Smith out of Missouri. So Kenneth Grant and Armand Membu end up being the selections there for KC. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm actually going to go lift now. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.